I opened my eyes and I saw you sitting over there. When did you get here?
I'm focused on the sound, but I was wondering at the same time, where is your mind when you hear that sound? Where is your sense of self when you're listening with the sound?
Well, that's a very different question than where is your... I think the first thing you said is, where is your mind when you hear that sound? And then you said, where is your self? I don't know if I think of them as the same thing. The easy answer is, when I hear that sound, I think of it in terms of music. And I hear the overtones.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that term, overtones?
Too overlapping?
Kinda.
Mm-hmm.
It's a musical idea where if there's one note being played,
mm-hmm.
depending on what instrument it is, like for example the violin or
mm-hmm.
stringed instruments, you can actually hear overtones in that one note.
Mm-hmm.
Notes that are also there
mm-hmm.
above or below that note, but they're just a little quieter. But if you really listen, you can hear them.
Sound.
Yes.
So we're talking about sound.
We're talking about sound.
Sound as is from the five senses. Ear, we hear sound, right?
Yeah.
We are made up of sensations, perceptions, what they call it. It's body. Body has this ear, eyes.
Our five senses,
and then they call it five skandhas and five senses. So anyway, and then you add a consciousness in there. So what I'm trying to say is, we identify with these five senses. And when you're identified with the sound, I was saying, where's your sense of self when you hear that this... I shouldn't be jumping on this level of, I shouldn't. What I'm trying to say is, I have to break it down, because I'm also conditioned to Buddhist way of thinking, right?
I just like the sound of them together.
Right.
But I don't know how to answer your question. Where is myself?
I don't know. I just...
Where is yourself? How do you...
Okay, let's
answer your question for you.
I don't want to sound diplomatic here.
Diplomatic.
Even to the listeners out there, Buddhism culture that I came from, Buddhism is very vast and deep, so I just cannot give a straight up one-line answer or such, but that's why, we'll take it in small steps. If we couldn't cover in this episode, we'll pick it up later in other episodes. But we focused on what being natural, and on the flow we go, and we may miss some points here and there, but do listen to following episodes. We'll try to be careful to handle with the care. This is a delicate subject. So I was asking.
Well, so you asked me
sense of self.
You asked me a question you couldn't answer.
Sense of self.
Sense of self.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Sense of self.
Tell me what that means to you.
So this question seems very new to you, huh?
Today, everything seems new to me. I feel kind of like a newborn today.
Okay, that's very good start. Sense of self.
I do. Yeah.
Sense. Meditatively sit there and let's explore this.
I love it. Let's go. That's why we're here.
Let's explore. This is a deep question.
Deep question.
We didn't even say hello, welcome to Tibet, USA.
We just did.
We just did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
Perfect. So, sense of self. So this is a language barrier here. Tibetan Buddhism.
Dear listener, just so you know, English is not Phuntsok's native tongue.
Right.
So you've been speaking English most of your life, but in America for the last 17 years, 18 years, had to be your primary. So your brain is still working in
Adapting.
Tibetan in different Indian dialects that you know, right? And so when we're talking about these really deep topics, a lot of them Eastern, Tibetan, Indian, Nepalese ideas,
Concepts, right.
you're trying to force them through the funnel of English,
Mm-hmm.
which is not maybe a perfect translation anyway.
There's no equivalent word there.
Yeah. And you're still working on mastering English. I think we're all working on mastering English, but as a person it's not your native language, there is that little baby barrier. So that's just for the listener to.
Perfect. That's why I have Mark on the other side of the table.
Exquisitely apropos reference to your cooperating podcast partner, Phuntsok, Mike Phuntsok.
All right. So
I'm an idiot. Okay, keep going.
So Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism, I don't know, we jumped right on the Buddhism. Huh? The translation, I couldn't find an equivalent word in English. Maybe there's no concept and there's no such thing. It's a cultural thing, maybe Buddhist cultural thing. But when we touch on sense of self, we were asking about that. The best thing I found to explain it on the go here like this is to use some paradox, some analogy, right? So let me get to the sense of self without, just saying it. Just use a example. Mm-hmm. When we sleep, you dream, we have dream, and when you recall the dream, oh yeah, the images, the story, the scenery, the movie, right, the drama. Do you see yourself in the dream? Visually, you see yourself in the dream, the image of you. Do you see in the dream? Or you're just the experiencer, you're witnessing that, you're sensing that, you're feeling that. But you don't, normally, most of the time, we don't see ourselves in the dream. It's a first person perspective. So I'm trying to get to the sense of mm-hmm. self here. So far, so good. Mm-hmm. Do you recall some dreams and where you saw something?
I don't think I see myself like looking at me across the room in a dream. It doesn't happen like that. It's always through my eyes that I'm seeing things. Like you said, the first person
perspective.
Yeah.
There are some who are good at third person perspective. They're tapping into detachment and lucid dreaming and all. Those are good at seeing third person one.
Seeing yourself.
Seeing you will see yourself detached,
yeah.
and then you will see as a third person, right? They're good. They practice something in meditation, maybe, right? Even though they may not call it meditation. So that's what I was trying to get to in the previous one, that mm-hmm. when you practice that in meditation in your daily life, you will see yourself as a third person, so you will be not that reactive and responsive. Mm-hmm. That's a whole different topic. See, when you get up and recall the dream, you see, recall the dream. Now after the event you recall, and then you recall, did you see yourself? Oh man, all these things that I've seen in the dream, but I didn't see myself. So who was witnessing that? Who was experiencing that? But there is a continuity there.
But it has to be you.
So
it's in your mind, right?
Say what?
I'll come back to it. Keep going. You're good.
Sense of self. People, and you can still break it down to sense of identity and all that, right? So we identify ourselves. There's a self as, I'm feeling hot today. Oh, I was listening to the singing ball and the sound, right? Sensation, mm-hmm. perception, volition, this body, and this consciousness. We identify ourselves with all these. They call it 5 aggregates, which they call it in Sanskrit 5 skandhas. In Tibetan, we call it pungpo nga, right? So the human being is all these 5 aggregates, they say it. And the last one, the 5th one, is consciousness. So we identified with these 5. That's why there is continuity, they say, in my Tibetan Buddhism, they will say, this is the illusion you have. You're mistaken the true identity of who you are, right? Even consciousness, when we die, it continues. It carries the karmic imprints of your whatever you did in this life or the previous life or many lives. So the consciousness still carries that. So ultimately, we have to free ourselves to the point where they call it, again I have to use the word rigpa, which is now I couldn't find an English word for that, like a pure awareness. It's like a very spacious, very openness there, spacious awareness. It is timeless. It's not born. It's never died. No birth, no death, and death in that. It's beyond concept. That's what I'm trying to say.
Sounds nice.
So that is they call it Dharmakaya. They call it Dharmakaya, which is Chuku, they call it. That's where the Rigpa comes. So these words that I'm saying, the language barrier here, or run into this problem in English is that there is no concepts, there's no words such. So when we're saying sense of self, it's good for us to see and identify where we are at. So this question, sense of self, I used the dream analogy there. It didn't hit you too intimate, but if you practice that in that when you get out of the bed and you recall the dream, just analyze that. Just experiment and analyze that. But I recall everything, but I didn't see myself. So this grasping, this continuity, this sense of self is continuing, even in the dream. Went too far from the get-go?
No, I wonder why. I hear that in my head. Why do I need to know who's dreaming when I know I'm the one dreaming? It's my mind. It's my first-person view of things. Like, to me, I don't get the question, I guess.
That's good. I like that.
I'm serious.
I like that. Very good. And not trying to be...
No, that's okay. Mm-hmm. So to me, I don't get why there's a doubt about who's dreaming. If it's in my dream, it's my dream. It's myself that's playing out all this stuff. Do you see my hang-up or my question? Why is it a question of who's dreaming? If it's coming from me, it's got to be me. Am I getting the question wrong?
I think.
Or have I not had enough coffee today? Cheers.
Cheers.
I do feel like a newborn today. I feel a little bit. I'm gonna wet behind the ears, I guess, as they say.
We can. I just, the question that you ask is that, why do I do that, right? There is this...
Maybe that's the bigger question, yeah.
Yeah, why do I have to know, right? Why question came.
Yeah, sort of. Mm-hmm. Like if you have a dream, Phuntsok, and you wake up from the dream, and you're concerned that you didn't see yourself in the dream
right.
from the third person.
Right.
Are you worried that you just had someone else's dream or that someone else is in your head?
Right. Let me. Can I polish my sentence here to fit into
your sentence
into
my limited understanding.
Your thing.
My Western.
Yeah. Why do I care? Right. Why do I care?
Sure.
Just live your life.
Let's go with that. Yeah.
But I thought we were trying into the exploration of mind. We touched on a couple of episodes before, right? So when we wanted to explore that, when we wanted to explore these deeper insights and wisdom. And I need to know, are we communicating on the same frequency? We're talking about the same thing. And I'll get back to you on that one. But I just don't want to be rude by saying like that, right? Yeah, so that's your perspective, mindset, which I totally understand. That, yeah, don't overthink things, right? Just live a simple life. Be here in the moment. That's enough, right? Be good and all enough. But this human mind is so gifted and equipped to tap into this that some of the wisdom traditions in the East, especially Tibetan Buddhism, that I know of, they have a lot of discourse and debate on that. Hinduism will say, no, there is no self. Or there is self, they'll say Ātman. And Buddhism will say, no, there is no self. The self that you would think there is this continuity, there's self there's no self. And they will break it down. They will have a lot of debates and discourse on that. There's a lot of text. They will say, no, there is no self. This is the true nature of the things, right?
The Dharma.
And yes. And then I said Dharmakaya, right? There's three bodies in Tibetan Buddhism. Dharmakaya, the Chuku, Lungu, Tuku. Dharmakaya is the spacious, unborn, not death, no timeless, openness, like a sky-like nature. And that's pure, pristine. That's they call it truth body, right? Truth
body?
Body. And there's three bodies, they call it truth body. And there's three bodies. The first one is Dharmakaya, and then Sambhogakaya, and I don't know the exact word in Sanskrit, but I don't want to mispronounce it. But Tibetan will say
find it
Chuku.
and come to it next episode.
I know in Tibetan, so Chuku, Lunku, and Tuku, right? So Tukus are they realize they free themselves from these karmic imprints, but now this awareness, this pure awareness, intentionally, deliberately came in other living forms like human beings to help other sentient beings to free themselves. They call it tulkus. You will see a lot of tulkus in Tibetan Buddhism, right? Oh, he's the reincarnate Lama, so Dalai Lama is a tulku, right? So they came as he's a manifestation of Avalokiteshvara, and Avalokiteshvara is one of the bodhisattvas, the enlightened beings. So they will come in human form, right? They have to talk to Mark and Phuntsok, right? Deal with Phuntsok and Mark, right? So they are the second body, tulku. Lunku, so tulku, lunku, chuku. Are you with me so far?
Yep.
So chuku is the ultimate. It didn't emanate into that. It's just there. And tulku is they come in this form, right? So I'm already confusing you. I think, are we there?
No, I'm just making parallels to Christianity. God, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The three forms of God. God is the overall creator, the life force, I think that's where all the souls come from. Jesus was God made flesh to teach us what to do here, how to treat one another, and where to focus. And then the Holy Spirit is the God and Jesus presence without the body. It's the breath of God that can permeate our bodies and inhabit our souls. It's always the three.
Okay, so good.
I'm just making those parallels. That's where my
good.
The glaze on my face was like, oh, that sounds familiar.
No, there was. So when we talk about, sorry.
I was just going to reiterate, get us back to the three Tibetan.
Okay, so the third, tulku. I explained the first and the third one, but second is the lungu, where like Buddha like Buddha, who is enlightened beings, and then all of that. So it's not too important at this point when we explain about 3 bodies in Tibetan Buddhism, Chuku, Lungu, and Tuku. They're talking about these enlightened beings. What they do, right? They come in 3 forms, Chuku, Lungu, and Tulku. That's what. And I am here at this level, way down there, that I don't have. When I die, I may not have control of my mind stream to born this way or that way. I cannot play, I cannot manipulate, I cannot influence that. So to do that, to have power, to have freedom, to have that thing, there are a lot of practices to do. They call it meditation and such, right? So that, okay, so one day you will be free. Otherwise they will say you are in this cyclical existence of birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. And you can say, oh no, I don't want to believe in that. Why do I have to think that? I just want to live one life, right? That's fine too. But then I wanted to share what culture where I came from, that they explore these dimensions. So when you so I just want to know, when we say about these words like what is continuing, soul, I just found out, or maybe I just misunderstood before, but in the Eastern tradition, there is no such thing. When the soul is English word here, right? I see many religious or philosophical systems soul is seen as an eternal, unchanging essence, right? That exists independently of the body and the mind. Is that right?
Are you saying Eastern or Western?
In Christianity, it's often thought as a true self, right? Part that continues after death, and it's permanent. It's the core aspect of identity.
I think that's a pretty decent, pretty well accepted definition of soul. I mean, the soul is debated in Western religion and Western philosophy, and of course science, Western science. I think the soul is a debated concept. There's some people that believe we don't have souls. But in Christianity, we're talking about our souls being saved by God, I think would be one way of thinking about the soul. And then it goes on to live when you die. Your soul goes on and lives with God in heaven. And even that is, I think, super not contentious, but I think it's debated, like what that looks like and when that happens, and do we have our physical forms in heaven? Are our bodies healed and we look like ourselves? And where is this heaven? You know, we always point up, like it's up in the clouds somewhere, but
so we have to be first careful with.
There's a lot of definitions
So we have to be first careful with the words that we use here in this Tibet USA podcast.
Yep.
So some of the words that I use, which I think it is the word in English, it's not actually what that Western concept is, right? So I have to be careful. So, however, in Buddhism, there's no notion of a permanent, independent soul. Interesting, right?
Super interesting.
And awareness and consciousness are seen as impermanent and interdependent. They arise on causes and conditions, but it's not something existed eternally or independently, right? So are we good with that? So sense of self in Buddhism is understood as illusion. It's not permanent. It's always changing. In its essence, it's always changing. So this is a construct from interaction of these 5 aggregates that I was trying to talk about: sensations, perceptions, and mental formations and consciousness. So I know I'm going too far into that, but at the same time, sometimes I just wanted to plant a flag there. These two are. People may misunderstand what we're saying here. So
that was going back to the last episode 4, where we were talking about the soul and consciousness being the same thing.
Here's some info about consciousness.
Okay.
Why, thank you.
Yeah.
We have a visitor on Tibet, USA. We have our
Yeah.
first guest.
I have a, what they call it?
Siri?
Yeah. So, having said that,
That was weird. Welcome to Tibet, USA. Welcome to Tibet, USA.
having said that, are we good with the I think we jumped on a heavy topic here.
It's great.
The
I
food-
have more questions than answers and thoughts. That's for sure. In the past 10 minutes, I've had like 8 questions.
Go ahead. I will be all ears.
Well, I don't know if I want to get into it.
Oh, okay.
Do you have something that you are burning to say on the
No.
topic? So going back a little bit to where you said your tradition and even Phuntsok as a person, I think you're interested in this. No matter what tradition you were born into, I think you would always want to be pushing to the edges of it and finding the limits of your mind and the limits of what it can teach you. And I think it's fortunate that you were born into Tibetan Buddhism because it seems to be one of the more limitless or boundless frontiers for this kind of thinking, where other religions, certain branches of Christianity and Judaism feel a little bit more like boxy to me. And that is my opinion, my experience. That is not empirical, listener, but that's my impression. So, but not to like you say, maybe some people just don't want to think about the self and just live a simple life. I don't think that's an explanation for my hang up, although I do want to live in the now. I do want to be here and I want to try to simplify my life. But it's more of a question about the dream and waking up and wondering who was witnessing that dream. That problem for me, the problem in that question for me is like this. Okay, I bake a pan of cookies, chocolate chip cookies, okay?
I like that.
I should bring some cookies in next week for us. This is 2 dudes talking Dharma dreams and donuts, and we haven't had like a tasty snack for a while. So next week, listener, we'll bring something in to tantalize your oral taste buds with. Okay, so I bake a pan of cookies. I eat a cookie. It was great. That's the experience of dreaming, right? I eat the cookie. It's happening. I go away for an hour, do some work in my house. I come back to that pan of cookies, and I pick up the cookie and I say, well, who made these cookies? Who made these cookies? I eat the cookie. It's really good. Who made this cookie? Well, I made the cookie. I had the dream. Why is there a question of who made the cookies if I made those cookies? I obviously made those cookies, unless I have a memory disorder, like a dementia.
Really, you want to go there? Perfect. So who's I? Since you fired that question, I want to say, who's that I? I made the cookie, you said. So let's explore. So if
the person that formed the cookie, that on the cookie tray, I made those cookies.
I'm just getting to know. I'm so intrigued. Genuinely, sincerely want to know who's that I?
It's the same person that made the cookie. I come back to that pan of cookies that I made with my hands. I dreamed a dream. I made the cookie. I come back.
So you believe there is some independent entity, this I there, permanent self there. That's what you believe in, right?
At that moment, someone made a cookie.
No.
Somebody made a cookie.
You made a cookie. Just to stick to that.
Yeah.
You made a cookie, right?
Yeah.
And I made the cookie, you say, right? Mm-hmm. So, and you think there is I, right? And then I just wanted to help push a little bit to see that one more window to see where's that I, right? That you hold on to so dear that you think there is I there, right?
Well, we're a physical form right now.
That physical
in this
form
world.
is you?
Yeah.
I?
Right? You're sitting across from me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
My eyes, sensation, my sense organ is seeing a physical form over there.
Yeah.
Right? So you are saying this physical form is I, so I is always changing, right? The physical form is always changing.
Well, as I get older, I am.
Yeah. We can jump on a philosophical debate. I love those debates. And there's this Buddhist discourse to jump, and we'll that thing will go away. That thing you thought that, oh my goodness, I thought there was I, and there was no I, right? So that goal is not to deny that you don't exist. When I say everything is impermanent, there's nothing. Everything is so interdependent. There is nothing inherently, independently existed out there. I don't mean to say it is not there. It's not. I don't mean to say it's illusion. It's not real. It is there, right? But identifying that is the permanent self. This is the ultimate. This is it. Will be the source of suffering, because this is always fluctuating, always changing with the causes and condition, karmic imprints, karmic force. It is changing. So holding on to that is one of the cause of the suffering. The goal is to liberate from suffering. Why? We want to be free ourselves, because we don't want suffering, right? Like every human being, every animals on this planet, the same.
Generally avoid suffering. Well, I'm not saying it's a permanent thing, but I'm saying you can't say that if you made a cookie that you didn't make the cookie. The person, Mark, on this earth right now, at 3 o'clock on Friday, made a pan of cookies.
I don't deny that. You made a cookie.
So then I walk away for an hour. I come back to that pan. Why would I question who made those cookies if I know I made them at that moment an hour ago? Why is there a debate there?
It's interesting. You
know what I mean?
You have created one question to fit the
dream
to fit what your how you wanted to logically derive to this derivation, so that you could come to the conclusion that you wanted to come to. And this is the frame question that you created yourself. Why do I have to come back? You can come back to check, say, who make the cookie.
I'm just saying, if I came back, why would I question who made the cookie if I know I made the cookie? That's all I'm saying is, I'm not going to come back and say, hey, my daughter made those pan of cookies, when I actually know I made the cookies.
I wanted to make my point across here. Let me finish the first one.
Got it.
So the question that you created is such that it's limiting to explore that deep dimension that I touched in the dream analysis, to understand the self, right? So in the dream dimension, you experience the whole thing. And then there is an experiencer, right? And you wanted to say, that is I, right? That is me. So I was trying to break it down here, even in this living, when we're walking here, physically walking here through this library and experience driving and all of that. There is this, I want to break it down, say, this is the body, this is the sensation, this is the perception, this is the consciousness, this is the volition. 5 aggregates that I was trying to break it down. And these are very important. You have to acknowledge that. Without these, we cannot function as a fully normal human being. I'm not saying that these are not part of you, but in the core essence, to understand that is something that you can truly rely on as you is misunderstanding, they say, because that is it's just parts that we just so identified with it. That's why they put it as 5 aggregates, 5 skandhas, right? Pungbonga, they call it. So if I say that I'm all sensation and perception and whatever cookies you made, and I'm the consciousness, I'm the body, I'm not saying you should deny that, but it's not completing the wholeness of that dimension that you are, or you're part of. And I know it's not flowing good, but I don't want. I want to be careful how I say it. But go ahead, push me further. I love that.
I think it's good to keep exploring that, because when you just are explaining that to me, it makes sense. I agree that we're not one thing, or we're not one. Like, even away from an Eastern sense of things, away from Tibetan Buddhism, we are more than one sense. Mm-hmm. We're physical. We are, our brain is a part of it. We're mental. Our emotional state is another thing. We're also a part of a bigger human context, some kind of a flow of humanity that's been happening for thousands of years. I get that. But what I guess at the heart of it is, I am not fully understanding the reason for the original question. And that's my cookie analogy was the first thing I could kind of find. So yeah. There's a lot to learn. And there's a lot for me to learn, and a lot to, I think it's a rich topic. We're just nibbling off the top.
Cookie question is so good that listeners can relate to. And I thank you for that question. Not that I seem to know all. I'm also exploring. Mm-hmm. But every now and then I have to jump in and say, mm-hmm. This is what I experienced, this is what it is, so that it will carry some weight. And this, I can be humble, but I just have to jump in and say this. And even the listeners who are listening there, they will say that how they're listening makes a lot of difference. And if they're listening with the vessel upside down, whatever I pour, it's not gonna get in the mm-hmm. inside of it, right? If the cup is holding upside down, or the vessel is full, I cannot add another one on the top of that. Or the vessel is,
has it got a crack in it?
Is a hole in it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's already dirty.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, a number of things. So my intention of sharing that is not to be popular or just to be a name and fame. It's just to share our experience here, Tibet, USA. Mm-hmm. Can I say that? Right, both are like that, right? We want to explore. Mm-hmm. Generally wanted to see where it goes. So you are holding on something?
No.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So
it's a deep topic that we're going to be coming back to repeatedly, listeners, and Phuntsok.
We ran out of time?
Not at all, but just to recap what you just said, it's a similar thing. Like, it can't be decided now, because I have these blocks that are not getting the whole meat of the question.
I've read some texts way back in when I was in Nepal 15 years ago. Tibetan great Buddhist seer or yogi, or it's called Longchenpa. And then I also read a book from Jingme Lingpa or something. They are Nyingma tradition one, and also Dulku Khyaltse Rinpoche. Now listeners can relate. I read some texts written by them. They've written numerous texts, and they were all following the teachings of what's his name? Warmila. I forgot the name. That was an Indian sage or great seer or bodhisattva came to Tibet in 8th century, mm-hmm. at the time of Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava. So the task is so vast and subtle, and it has to be handled with a delicate and with care, right? So Guru Rinpoche came and did this, right? And then Warmila, I forgot the name. So he was also there in Tibet at the time. They both were at the same contemporary, and he took on this task to do it, to teach and all of that. So what I was trying to get to is that these topics that we're talking about, the same thing. I was reading it And when they took so much time to explain that, who am I? I'm just a small potato. I'm just a small sand here. Just cannot break it down in one episode. Nor I have the wisdom to do that. But these wisdoms are deep. So, but I don't blame anyone if they don't understand where I'm coming from. But I thought like these are the meeting of the minds there when they meet and exchange that. And in back in the days in India, this place is called Nalanda. There is this great bodhisattva, I should say, called Nagarjuna Gombulutup. It's like he is one of the greatest teacher.
You did this with your hand. What does that
Oh,
mean?
he's Gombulutu. He's always with associated with the nags, with they call it the serpents, right? So
Serpents?
yeah, and
So
then
like a
there's
snake?
a relation there. So we don't want to go into that. So,
Okay.
but Guru Rinpoche, Nagarjuna Gombulutu, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, he closely follows his teachings. And they will talk about this Ātman, Anātman in Hindi. These are two words that I use in Hindi. Ātman is
The self.
self, and Anātman is no self. There's different school of thoughts. So Guru Nagarjuna, what I brought up this is, they call it Madhyamika, is middle path school, Madhyamika philosophy. So they will debate on that. So when you throw that cookie in there, it'll roast right there at that first debate.
It'll get roasted? I think part of it is we're talking about different things, Phuntsok. I think our nomenclature, the words we have to describe the concepts, is still, and I think this is probably the journey of Tibet USA, a lot of it. And I think we talked about this back in the first or second episode, way back in season 1, is what are we talking about? Are we talking about the same thing? Half the time I don't think we are. But the self and not self is a huge... when I was rereading Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, which we've talked a little bit about, and we can talk about that at length sometime, whether it's a valid, reference text for interpreting any kind of true Buddhist philosophy, seeing as it was written by a Westerner, European, right? There's a lot of debate there. I still find it a beautiful story. And
I love the book.
relate to it.
Yeah.
But the self...
Hermann Hesse, right?
Hermann Hesse,
Yeah.
German. But
I
there's...
was so interested to visualizing him at that time in late 1700, right? Is that?
I think late 1800s, early 1900s. He was writing.
He traveled all in East Asia and explored all of that, and he went back to Germany, right?
Yeah.
To write all of that. Wow.
Yeah.
And it carries a deep. The book is not easy read. It's interesting, but it's very subtle.
It's touching. It's beautiful. I love the poetry. I love the journey of Siddhartha, of the man, and how he steps through these different worlds and has to kind of decide where his focus is and what he truly is following and believing. And the self, not self, is a huge debate early on, and then he decides at the end, or just decide with the help of a teacher, kind of sees that it's all one thing. There is no self. But that's a big sticking point for me.
So you're just throwing the cookie in there just to start the conversation?
No,
here.
I'm just trying to fucking understand it, dude.
Really?
Seriously.
So you also read Thich Nhat Hanh's book, right?
I almost brought it this morning.
So
Living Buddha, Living Christ.
He's all about self and not self.
And I'm
He's
in
about
the middle of it, and it's great. But it's such a new idea to me.
He is all about.
I love it.
Sorry, not to.
No, it's good.
He's all about sense of self. If you're reading his book, his core teaching. It carries a lot of things, but sense of self,
Okay.
he will touch on that so good. He's the best teacher to teach you that.
which in context of our conversation is what? Against Ātman?
No, there is, he will not say there is a self, there is a independent self, permanent self that we hold on to. That grasping is the root cause of the suffering. He will say that.
Yeah, and I agree with that. So my hang-up, Phuntsok, is we're in a physical body right now on Earth. And when that physical body dies, that person whose parents named him is gone for now until they come back as something else or they go to heaven or whatever they do, right? That person is gone. When I die, Mark Schumacher, I'm gone. Done. That's the self I'm talking about, the self that made the cookies. That's the physical realm of the self. We can't deny that I'm sitting here right now. I'm flesh and blood, right? I got headphones on. We got the power going. We're recording. We're talking together. Who's that? I'm going to go home later and make cookies. If I have, I have a dream tonight, Mark, going. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning in my bed, in Mark's bed, and I'm going to say, hey, I had a dream last night. Like, I have no doubt who that was. That's, I guess, the bigger question. But at the same time, there's this whole thing of if it's only me and I'm not attached to anything else, then that's where the suffering is, because we are part of the fabric of everything. All of the other people, we have to be connected to people. So I think it's a very different and it's a different lens to look through than what you're looking through. But I don't know. That's where my hang-up is.
Good.
You see?
I should let you talk more, because that's where this podcast, this episode will flow good, because I don't lose that heat. That
you want to make a big debate out of it.
No, like this debating. Is good. I know I'm going to be listening, because I want to learn. I want to see how your mind is forming, how your thoughts are processing. And it's intriguing to have these kind of...
It's frustrating for me, dude.
What, really?
Yeah. Ooh, I don't like it. I don't like not being on the same page.
Oh. So it's not connecting. Maybe I'm not...
I hear what you're saying. I
teacher.
Intellectualize what you're saying, but at the same point, I don't think it's that complicated. Like when you say who's dreaming, who's the witnesser in your dream, we only are born with one form. So it's got to be that form that's doing it, with electric connections in our brain. And
actually, we're doing a podcast here. It's a mental construct that we created our own reality. We woke up this morning, drove up here to this library, opened up this mic, started doing recording here, put it up on a social media platform, share it. We created our reality. So we construct our own reality. Okay, there's this mind stream that followed you up to here. We go home today. Is that all you? So I don't want to think about it. Came here and did the podcast. I don't want to think about it, right? I'm sorry. Don't want to be rude. So I'm saying
I don't think I sounded like that.
That cookie. You made a cookie, right? So I want to jump in like this because you came like that. So I have to be reciprocal. So here we go. But at the same time, I respect where you're coming from. Sincerely respect. So here we go. Coming from here. I'm saying is that we're more than that. So I wish I could give you a routing number, the bank account, and all of that. Here we go. Here we go.
We're going to touch foreheads. And
here we
transmit.
Here we go. You give it to you like in a data form, right? Like an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. So when we process this, and it's just I created this, my reality. So the same thing, singing bowl, or or a thunderstorm. Wow, awesome, what a sound, right? Somebody will say, oh my goodness, this is scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we all have our own subjective experience. Isn't that beautiful? The outside is the same, the stimulus or stimuli is the same,
Mm-hmm.
but we perceive differently based off of our
100%
karmic
experiences or in,
karmic imprints,
Mm-hmm.
right? Karma, they call it. So that subjective experience is your reality. You process this. So right now, what I'm trying to say is that, first of all, I have to be very careful how to say this, how to ask questions. I just cannot just throw a big question like that because it's startled somebody and then now stuck in the middle here. Do you believe that we create our own realities?
in the way you just described it, through our actions and our intents and our interactions with the physical world, I think we do. We started this podcast. I brewed coffee this morning, so I constructed my reality of the physical form of Mark drinking coffee this morning. Kind of back to the cookie thing.
It's not flowing good.
So I think I just need different words. I need that question worded differently. Because I don't think I'm getting what you're asking.
At any point of time, did you had an insightful moment and you saw yourself from a panoramic aerial viewpoint of, oh, I'm so stuck in my mind or identified with my mind?
Like third person?
Yeah. Again, you want to go back to the cookie? Why do I have to think about that, right?
No, hey, if I didn't want to think about it, I wouldn't be sitting across the table from you.
See, these identifications causes sufferings, they say, because these are impermanent.
Do I look like I'm suffering?
These are impermanent. These are impermanent. These are fluctuating. These are so conditioned that it's bound to change, and then identifying and fixating and holding on to is a source of suffering. That's what they say is, in the Four Noble Truths, they will say ignorance is the cause of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you're the ignorant, but identifying, misunderstanding the true nature of the things, dharma you want to call it, it's important to come out of the suffering. We need to know, right? We need to know the true nature of the thing, so coming back to dharma, coming back to thing, that's where we have to think about beyond these sensations and perceptions and feelings and emotions and physicality, that making cookies. This ear listening to the sound and it's soothing, okay, this is good, right? So this is going to change. And then the sound, same singing ball or the thunderstorm may give different effects to different, so it's not reliable to just hang on to that. So what were you saying? You just
I
said
agree with all of that.
all of that.
Yeah.
So what is the holdback for you is the unknown part that is bothering you, that you don't want to jump into that unknown. This territory is uncharted territory that you're not used to. There's resistance in you that you don't want to do, or it's not. There is clarity lacking, or you want to know what you want to get in, what you want to get into, and then you will feel comfortable, and then you want to venture into that. Is that what you are, or
maybe,
or the approach that I took? I want to agree. I want to say that I may be wrong. I'm not a good teacher, but I like the bounce back from you.
Yeah, I can tell.
But I need to be more skillful in my ways to say what I want, what I'm trying to say, and what I want to do. Not that I'm here to teach something. This is not teacher-student moment. This is a dialogue between two different people from different culture, right?
It's these thought patterns and thought traditions, thought patterns that are revealing themselves as being very contrary. Like, I think the way we are approaching our consciousnesses, my consciousness and your consciousness, I think they're just very like diametric now. They're on opposite sides of the ping pong table, and we're trying to bat a ball around, but the ball is not the same ball. You're playing with a different ball than I'm playing with, and I think the rules of the game are different, and the goal is different too. The objective is different, and who's holding the paddle is different. Is there somebody holding the paddle, or is there nobody holding the paddle? Self, not self, I think there's so much that is in our wiring that's different right now.
In no way I want to sound or I wanted to influence or say that belief is needed or faith is needed. This is just human psychology I want to explore deeper. And if somebody thinks this is too much to go into, hey, I care about nice house, nice car, nice, in front of a beach and good paychecks, and this is good. I'm not against that at all. I'm not saying you are, and I don't want to delve into these philosophical, meditative states of mind. But I'm raised this way. This is the genetic gene pool that I came from. Is that this human gift, this birth, human life that I have, this is built for that to explore. And I said I wanted to explore that, if that is the case. That's why my cultural tradition and conditioning that I this is what say human. This is I'm exposed to, and I'm exploring that. But if in the West, Mark, you think it's too much, or no, not too much, but it's this wired differently, and this is not the rules of the games that I play, and that's okay, right? But as I'm doing this and talking, and I wanted to learn to see what made you see that way, that why hesitant to go there to explore. And when you and I know, basically intrinsically at the bottom, we both are human being, flesh and bone, blood, right? We both are same. And fundamentally, we are same. We want happiness. Nobody wants suffering, right? And then to eliminate that, right? How do we eliminate that? Sometimes the happiness that you get, or the pleasure that you get, is the source of another suffering. So it's endless suffering there. See? So do you want to be in that loop, or you wanted to come out of that? They're not just talking about this lifetime, they were talking about dimension beyond this time and space. So it's interesting to me, but it may not be interesting to somebody else. So I respect that, and I'm not denying that there could be different interests. But this is who I am. I'm always open-minded and wanted to be enlightened if you have new insights to share.
Well,
Well, we still wanted to hang on to the temporary happiness of singing bowl.
mm-hmm.
That's okay too.
It's nice. I think of when you think about an explorer climbing to one of your country's mountain peaks, the Himalayas, Mount Everest, or exploring another one of Earth's harsh and difficult terrains like a cave or the ocean. We think it's pretty glamorous. You know, I'm going to go exploring, I'm going to go mountain climbing, I'm going to go deep sea diving, I'm going to see what is out there, even space exploring. But in reality, exploring is about 90% preparation, making sure you have the right gear, you have the right air to breathe, you're mentally prepared, you know when to stop and make camp for the night to save your energy, you know when to stop and eat so you can continue on healthily. And we are exploring here in Tibet, USA, some new terrain for me, probably for you too. And I think this episode and this journey is today, I think was an uphill branch of our exploration, and shows me that what I need to bring mentally, emotionally, to be prepared for what we're exploring. It's not it's not glamorous. There's a lot of questions, and sometimes there's going to be on a hike up Mount Everest, we're gonna be short a tank of oxygen, maybe, unless you're a Sherpa and your lungs have developed through centuries of climbing the capacity to function with less oxygen than other people's. So yeah, this journey of Tibet, USA can be a rocky exploration, and I think
Not always bed of roses, huh?
not always bed of roses.
And sometimes it's okay. The episode is going to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to be on the same page all the time. It's good. I like sometimes. We're in what? This is the season 2,
Mm-hmm.
5th episode.
I think so.
And like the concepts that we were sharing, two dudes talking Dharma dreams and donuts, when we talk about Dharma, the true nature of things. And then I tend to bring from the concept of Buddhism, and Buddhism being so vast or so broad and deep. Over the last many episodes, I just was casually talking, and I did see that I was not completing some of the questions that was raised from other. We are not completing
Mm-hmm.
those, and it's that way because we want to be in the moment and be natural and just go with the flow. But at the same time, there are listeners who feel that, oh, okay, this is not complete. So every now and then, some episodes are like this, that we will jump onto some heavy topics and again leave it open to the listeners to decide, or delete it,
Delete the episode.
or
Yeah.
integrate in their daily practice of, life. Isn't that what we do as a human? Is to connect and relate and understand and explore? Or we just want to pay the bills and that's all we exist here. It's more than that.
Well
so I'm
said.
trying to fit in into some society and some system. That has become the trend here in this day and age, in the Western world especially, and it's all over the world. Same, that we want to fit in this society, this company, this policy, this structure, which is good, right? Which is good, but we're actually more than that, actually, right? And then, if you go too much into that, then we lose the connection, the human-to-human connection, to exploration of that exchange that you and I am sitting here and exploring, connecting. And sometimes it could be uncomfortable space where just leave me alone type, right? It's giving me strength. But we just sit back and relax and observe. See what is being pushed. Oh, that belief, that frame of mind of me is resisting this other way. Oh, it is disrespectful, or this is overstepping on my belief, or something like that. I'm just giving you an example. But be open-minded about it and see the holistic, the bigger picture of why we are here, right? Again, don't say that, who made the call, why should I? But what I'm trying to say, why we are here is a good question. Who am I is a big question, right?
Who's the I?
Who am I?
Who's the I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is the I, right?
Who's the I?
Yeah. Who is the I and who am I is gonna be the hard question.
That's what season 2 is about. How about? And 3
Yeah.
and 4 and 5.
Yeah. So, Mark, thank you.
Hey, I can't say the pleasure was all mine because it was tough, but I appreciate it and I like it because I feel like I'm walking out of here with some more questions in my head, and I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you for sitting across me and listening. And by doing this, we are actually sharing this, and people, listeners out there are also mindful of, they can relate to what their thought processes is, what they're going through. So hopefully this conversation is not too mind taxing, we call it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's building compassion. I think this conversation is a perfect example of empathy and compassion for someone else's view. And I think we're losing that, as a big culture. Surely as an American culture, but probably everywhere, I don't know. So if we need to cut a little piece off of me so I can understand someone else's experiences and passions and mindset and belief systems better, then I think I'll only understand my own better, too. And at the end of the day, I'm born as me, I die as me. I kind of want to understand myself. It seems like a selfish idea, I think, especially in Christianity. You're encouraged not to really focus on yourself. I think there is that self, non-self debate in Christianity as well. It just kind of fits in a bit differently.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, because to really be a fulfilled Christian or a realized Christian, you're supposed to think of others first. You're not supposed to focus on yourself. So I think that same idea, self, not self, who is the I, is there. I just think it's built up differently, and the end goal is maybe advertised as being different. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, I think this conversation has then good for me to be more, maybe be more okay with not being okay with it, with our differences. So before we put people to sleep, let's say goodbye.
Yet another beautiful
Stellar closing.
exchange of.
Hey, next week I'll bring the cookies, okay?
Cookies.
Yeah. Will you dream of me?
Yeah.
Okay. Goodbye, Phuntsok.
Goodbye. See you later. Thank you.
Thank you.